On today's show, we have Mr. Bradley Johnson. Bradley is certified Spooky2 Gold Trainer and a holistic frequency practitioner, helping others discover a higher vibrational frequency of life. Now, Brad Johnson has a 16-year background in radio frequency and has studied combined waveforms and modulations for 8 years. He is a RIFE engineer with the last 2 years focused as the owner-operator of a holistic frequency practice in the U.S. He is the official Spooky2 Gold certified trainer and holds many great training courses for Spooky2 users online and offline. He has been using Spooky2 generators for several years and is committed to researching energy medicine, energy balancing, and the quantum entanglement of cells to provide scientific and intellectually sound data. His work supports a new understanding of human wellness and infinite possibilities. Mr. Brad Johnson, welcome to the show.
Welcome to Simply Walk the Talk. Our bodies and minds adapt to what we do most of the time. If you want to change your body and mind, you must change what it is you do most of the time. This podcast explores all things health, wellness, fitness, lifestyle, and biohacking. Stay tuned as we explore various thoughts, methods, and experiences from a multitude of conversations between our interesting guests and experts through many fields of work. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Simply walk the talk. Simply walk the talk.
Thank you so much. Obviously, if you're listening to this and you're wondering, like I was wondering, what the hell is Spooky2? Mr. Brad Johnson is going to take us through this because he's a wealth of information. And I myself actually have a few of these setups. And so not only are we going to talk about what all of this is, what all it can do, but I might even throw in some personal requests and questions about how to use my system. And if you're curious about how to get your own system, we're going to leave all that stuff in the show notes. And Brad has agreed to help anyone because he loves doing what he does. So how about we start there, Brad? Let's start with, why is this thing called Spooky2?
Spooky2 originally derived its name because when all this technology was originally being created back in the early 1800s, late 1800s, early 1900s, you had, at this point, you already had standard, scientific facts that had supposedly been come out and proven. Einstein, like your theory of relativity and things like that multiple scientists all over the world had already agreed upon was a working theory from a scientific perspective. However, when quantum entanglement started making its way up through and the ability of rifing and certain things like that, the quantum entanglement actually, when it was put into a measure of spin and the technology was actually broken down and confirmed to be logistical, Einstein could only describe the technology as spooky action at a distance. And so that's why Spooky2 branded their name Spooky, simply because of the fact that they've been in business since 2013. They are one of the most cost-effective companies out there on the market for methods of introducing rifing frequencies into your house. And I've been with them for several years. I love the company, like I said, but with regards to how all their naming structures come about, most companies of the current day, they will never brand themselves as a rife machine. And that's simply because of the individual who Royal Raymond Rife was. He was an engineer, a worker. Most people don't even realize this, and they call him a doctor, but Royal Raymond Rife was never a doctor. He was actually given an honorary doctorate degree because of his work and success in curing cancer in the early 19th. And so, the reason why people don't really name their machines as Rife machines is for two primary reasons. One is because Royal Raymond Rife would probably roll over in his grave. And two, then you would start having all kinds of people coming after you as a company because you were a so-called Rife machine, and Rife supposedly, has the capabilities of curing cancers or doing all this other things from people that have heard about this stuff for almost 100 years now.
Wow. No, it's really interesting. And to be honest with you, I kind of that the naming of it had something to do with that. And I did this many times on my show, and people who know me well have heard me use this phrase of anytime there's a question, there's an opportunity to educate. And so just like what happened right now, like we all just were educated on this question of what the hell is Spooky 2. So as I speak in the intro, then kind of get away from the weird sounding or, interesting sounding name, we actually have some real science into what all this is. So I would love for you to let's start us in and pretend as if I am someone that has no idea what this is. And by the way, we have had a couple episodes in which we've gone deep into the rabbit hole of scalar waves and scalar energy, things like that. But I would love to still kind of back up and let's start there.
All right. So let's imagine that you as an individual, you've worked your way through your life and you have come across multiple different, medical issues or ailments according to the way our Western medicine is set up and designed, kind of run people through this same type of routine. But you, for some reason, are decided that you're sick and tired of certain ways of how certain works or how certain medicines go, and you're going to take your ability to kind of focus on your own health into your own hands. This is a device that has a very cost-effective price parameter that you can purchase, bring into your house, learn and understand how to use, and then you can successfully mimic exactly what Royal Raymond Rife was doing in the 20s and 30s when he successfully discovered all these technologies as to how to address specific issues in our body. Like what we realized over the last almost decade of doing this is that when you are suffering from issues health-wise, normally this is because of one low vibrational thread or another, whether it's cold or a flu or whatever you want to call or name it. It is of a low vibrational nature. The only thing inside our bodies that resonate with super high resonant frequencies are the healthy cells, meaning each individual thing then has its own resonant frequency that if you play that frequency and introduce that into the body, you can cause that to break down and remove. And Rife discovered all this, like I said, over 100 years ago. In the 20s, Rife built a microscope that gave him visibility of live microorganisms under observation. I mean, you could take a drop of blood, put it on a microscope, physically see things moving on it. And at this point, this is where all the work technically started, because now he's using frequency and he's using resonance, and he's realizing that certain cells on the slide are vibrating, but others aren't. Completely healthy cells weren't. Meaning that each individual cell, no matter what you were, had its own resonant frequency. And so you isolate the frequency of that cell and you increase the amplitude just slightly, it would cause just that one cell to explode. And so all the other healthy cells were completely fine around it. And then this kind of progressed as he worked his way into the 30s, where he then started working with the Cancer Institute. And they took 16 patients that were stage 4, basically walking zombies, non-operable, going to die, all 100% willing to partake in this study. They did a study out in California with all 16 patients, doing nothing other than high-ranking, plasma therapy. And at the end of 90 days, 14 of those 16 people were completely cured. And after 3 more weeks, the other 2 were completely cured, which gave Rife a 100% cure rate, curing cancer. This thing grew and grew and grew, so much so like into the 40s, you had doctors that Rife was building machines just like this one that we can now own in our home and distributing them to other doctors who were curing their patients. And so these doctors all celebrated, they came together, and they held a dinner, and they called this dinner the end of all disease. And when Royal Raymond Rife refused to patent his technology so that the American Medical Association could then sell it to the people to cure their issues and diseases that were starting to, these were so minuscule back then. Like, think about how small the cases of cancer were in the 1920s and 30s in comparison to what we are today. It's like astronomically different. So the rise of big med, the rise of big pharma, the background automatically started the smear campaign on Rife. And all these doctors that built microscopes that he built had their labs burned down. And it wasn't very long before these famous doctors who were at this same dinner celebrating him for the successes of, a lifetime of what he had accomplished, all of a sudden claimed that they no longer knew him. And the smear campaign continued on to the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and 70s. And he was killed in 71 by giving a fatal dose of Valium in a hospital while recovering from alcohol poisoning. But it really just goes to show you that, Raymond Rife, people that worked with him, they said that he was 80 years ahead of his technology. Could you imagine holding a conversation or working next to side by side with someone who's trying to build something and he's 80 years smarter than you are? That's incredible, And so that's the type of thinking or logical mind. And that individual lived until he was 80 plus years old, so, but what he discovered was the baseline for how all these companies made these rifing machines going forward. 2013 introduced Spooky2. Spooky2 comes in with a very cost-effective 2-generator option solution as to how you can start setting these things up into your house and then introducing more and more and more advanced ways of getting those frequencies into the body, such as Scalar. Their Scalar technology is incredible. There are a lot of companies out there that manufacture Scalar devices, but there are not a whole lot of companies that manufacture true Scalar devices that have rifing technology, meaning Tesla and Rife in the same type of device. But the Spooky2 Scalar system is one of those devices. It is really incredible.
Okay, thank you for explaining all that, because it is very helpful, especially for those who need to hear the data or to see the data and things like that. And then for those who don't really care about that, it's cool to at least know that you understand this, right? So that we can kind of get to the rubber meets the road. And so I would love, Gordon, if you don't mind, could you pull up the website so we can see what it looks like? And then also for those that are watching, Brad, is it easy enough for you? Could you also show us your setup behind you? Because by the way, I like your setup. And if you are an owner of a Spooky2 setup, you understand that it does take a certain bit of handling to make sure you get it set up properly. And I see that you have yours set up very well. So there we go.
I have a tons of stuff. I have tons of equipment, all kinds of different things. But the Scalar, for the most part, are these two cases here. And what these guys introduce is a variable field. The larger you make this field, the bigger and stronger the Scalar gets between it. Okay? So that's just the pure energy form of this. Once you start there, that's the first. Now we can enhance the pure energy field we've created that once we introduce our body into, now I'm tuning out EMF, I'm tuning out Wi-Fi, I'm tuning out the particle things of the environment that we all live in. But if I want to enhance this field, now I can bring in frequencies, I can bring in modulations of medications, I can bring in audio modulations all into this one field that I've created. If I so choose to, then I sleep in.
That's what I do. So it's, this is not, I could ask so many questions and I will, okay, we'll get there. But for those who are blessed to be able to see see this video and what Brad just kind of showed us in his setup, there's a number of things that he has in his background that we're going to hopefully touch on, pieces of at least. And as I didn't really know how to label this conversation, so I only spoke about Scalar. But you're very correct in saying that there's Scalar, there's Rife, there's a Tesla technology. All these things are in there. Even if you want to go much deeper, I know that there's a lot of programming to be able to choose biofeedback scanning. There's the ability to express grinding. And there's ways to, I love the hunt and kill programs, right? And I love for me, I'm probably most interested in the biofeedback because it's something that makes it very individual.
Yeah.
And then the fact that, right? And so let's go there, right? Let's say that a person at this point already is like, okay, he talked about curing cancer and he talked about all these things about EMFs and whatever. I want to get a unit, okay?
Right. So now they go get a unit and they show up and they're like, oh my God, what do I do? Because they unbox it. And normally when you get a new kit is going to come with a little case like this. When you get it, when you open up this fun little kit, it's going to have all these different accessories, all your books and stuff like that inside of here. So you're going to have all the different options for ways that you can run different types of programs and things like that. So it is just packed full of things when you first get this. But normally, when you first start getting this thing and taking it out of the box, you're going to download the free software. Because that's what's key. The software has over 60,000 frequency programs in it. And that's kind of your, so you're going for how I feel or what I want to do.
Can I pause you 1 second? I only because this was very important for me. So I think it will be very important for anybody listening to this at this point. So you're doing exactly what you just said. You have to have it's not a Mac. What's the opposite of a Mac? Windows. You have to have a Windows-based computer for now.
Yes.
Or else. Now, so just keep that in mind because it is important, especially for that first piece. Because I remember when I got my unit, I was on tour with a client. I was excited to start using it. I got everything open and I got to the point where I'm like, laid everything out, open up the pamphlet and it's like window and I'm like, oh, so it's important.
Yeah. So the Spooky2 operating software is 100% free. However, it only runs off of a Windows-based interface. So you can have the passover, like using virtuals and stuff like that. You can do that as well. But it's honestly like to save people most headaches and stuff. I've upgraded devices multiple times over the years. It is so easy to just go out on eBay or Amazon and simply search recertified Windows 10 laptop. I bought a brand new HP laptop for $159. Like it's simple.
So you get a lot to run, right? It doesn't have to be fancy. Like I said,
the operating requirements are almost minimal. Like the text file, it's almost text file scripting. So the file itself is very small. Once you have the software installed on your laptop, that laptop never needs to touch internet access again.
Good to know. So there you go. So, okay, so please carry on. So you got your device, you download the software, which is free, runs on Windows, and now.
So you're like most people, they struggle with, what do I do with this thing? How do I use it? How do I set it up? How do I work with these? And that's where like all the Spooky2 trainers and the tutorials come in with how you set up different things. The kits themselves, they have tons of different accessories, and all those accessories are going to provide different means for how you bring frequencies into the body, whether you're using remotes or coil or cold laser or scalar or plasma, like we talked about before. They're just different ways of delivering those frequencies out of that database into your body. And so once you get this and start unboxing everything, you got your Windows-based laptop and you're ready to get going, I would highly encourage you to tune into some of the training videos, because they will walk you through everything as to how to connect everything, how to download the software, how to get in and kind of start getting the flow for understanding this. But additionally, so this can be overwhelming if you let it, but don't let it. Like if you start getting to that point, shoot me an email. I'll schedule something with you. I'll host a Zoom session. I do all of my training or mentoring sessions on a donation basis. So the point is to get the information out there so that you can be successful using these devices, as I have seen over the last couple of years as well.
Beautiful. Okay, so thank you for that. And I personally will take you up on that. And my hope is that, many others follow. And who knows, like if I get enough of a group of people that are sort of buying into this, and maybe we can do like group little Zoom sessions and whatnot. Like, I think where I could lead this next piece might be helpful for those who have certain setups, because as we know, there's a multitude of varieties of setups that you can get. But let's say, at least from my understanding, the most basic, easiest setup is getting the transmitter and the receiver, the scalar device, right? That's just literally plugging it in, connecting the two cables, and then tuning it, right?
Right. You don't even need a generator technically for that. Like because that first stage, that pure energy scalar, is just the case being tuned to itself on a sine wave. So you don't have to
plugging it in
the frequency side yet if you don't want to. Like I always try to tell people, 95% of the work when I do sessions with people,
plugging it in,
scheduled to come over to do scalar and stuff, I'm doing pure energy scalar sessions. I always give this perfect example where I talk to this guy and Doug is like, "Oh, Brad, I've had an awful weekend, man. My dog left me and my wife left and my dog ran away and I quit my job on Friday." When this guy comes over on Monday, I'm going to run him with depression-related frequencies because he's got a lot of stuff going on in his life. So I'm going to enhance that already built scalar field when he comes and runs that session.
So to do that, you need the generator, right?
Right, because now I got to pipe in depression-related frequencies or anxiety or relaxation or calming or any one of these types of frequencies specific to his current situation.
Exactly. So, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason why I wanted to point out the pure energy scalar bit is because that's a really good starting place for people to benefit from this technology without having to go too deep into the layers, right?
100%. Like this can be a very multifolded technology, as you've got a difficult product learning curve, a difficult technology learning curve, and it can be a difficult place to start. But this is simple. Like you plug this into power and longitude, separate it with distance, you're set. Like the tuning, very simple. Or if and when you want to enhance it or make things better, you got people like me, you got tons of videos out there. Again, this whole system and the reason why this works or is considered the way it is according to the FDA is because it's considered experimental. So by all means,
experiment. It's still safe, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. So then what would you consider to be the next level up? And maybe you just touched on that, but like, what would you consider to be the next level from just pure scalar energy, pure energy scalar?
Use pure energy scalar, and you start familiarizing yourself with the body, into the body. You're sitting in for 15 minutes on the first day, or a half hour, an hour, something like that. Most people, when they get it, they're like, I'm going to sleep in it the first night, and things do. And so start getting used to like how your body's going to react to the scalar, and because it can, it's going to play one factor as to how you do and how you kind of balance the irregularities of your current lifestyle. And it's important to know how that's going to react and how that's going to feel. Because then once you start enhancing it now with these other levels, now it's a whole other ballgame. Because now all of a sudden you're like, oh, I've got a headache. I've got a couple of options. One, I can pipe a frequency in for headache, and just sit in between the cases and take my headache away. Or now I can use the molecular side of the scalar, meaning I can take a Tylenol and set it on the receiver, set between the two cases, and draw the effects of that Tylenol into my scalar field. Normally, within about 10 to 15 minutes, your headache will go away. The Tylenol is working as if you had taken it. Only you didn't have to introduce the Tylenol into your body. So no side effects, no overdose, none of those risks. This is just, like I said, this is incredible.
Okay, thank you for that. And of course, because I have a unit and I've done mine with CBD. I've used CBD on there and essential oils and things like that. And because I have a setup, and because I've gone through all this, like watching the videos, I know exactly what you're talking about. But for the person who doesn't, could you maybe let's either run us to a video online that Gordon can pull up, or could you maybe show us in real time? Like, I don't know what's easier, but could you just maybe show us? Because I think the average person is not going to know what that looks like, right?
Experience. So, no different. Assume that I have an essential oil, something like this. It's a little 30 milliliter of some frankincense or something like that that's beneficial to my health. And I want to bring this into my body without having to physically take it out and apply it to me topically. So the scalar allows you to introduce this on the receiver coil. So if these are set up in tune, meaning this is my transmitter and this is my receiver, and I link the two with my link cable, okay? If I take this and push this on my receiver side, it will draw the effects of that into my pure energy field.
And then that's it, right? Like, it's as simple as that.
Now again, in order to get that effect of that, what you just drawn into the field, into you have to put yourself into the field. So all I would do is just sit back in the field for 5 or 10 minutes, and then I'm drawing the effects of this. So this is a perfect example of this. In early 2020, I had a client who had moved from Nevada to get help with some morphine. Struggling, and her doctor was no longer able to prescribe her morphine, and she was chowing down the pills until she was And she moved to Indiana, and her and I started working together. And when I met her, she was running 5 morphine extended release tablets a day. These were extended release. These were like designed to kind of run all day, and she was taking 5 of them. So there wasn't less than a 2-hour window where she wasn't medicated, she was hurting. So we started running frequency programs for her. I started emulating morphine sulfate and endorphin release via remote, via imprinting into water, all kinds of things that I could just in the background while trying to notch her down from 5 to 4 to 3 to 2. When we got down to 1 pill, every morning she would come over and take her morphine sulfate and set it on the receiver side. On the transmitter side, I would take those distilled water solutions and put some water in them and let them imprint. I'm running frequencies in there, and she's sitting in between the cases for anywhere between 20 to 30 minutes. Sometimes it was 20, sometimes it was 30, sometimes it was 35. It kind of varied day to day. But almost like waking up for the first time in the morning, like she just shot up out of the chair, like that thing had kicked in, and she was finally good to go. And then she would just take those little distilled water solutions with her. So that as a withdrawal symptom or some type of symptom would start coming on from the morphine itself and not taking it, she could take the top off that distilled water solution and just drink it. And that would get her through the day to get back to me the next session to run our next pill.
Dude, that's wild. So, and I've heard stories like this, and I have this device called, what is it called? I'll have to get back to you on it, because it was sort of my first introduction to imprinting.
Yes. Probably radiologist.
Well, it's they have like a little light box, right? It's a little light, and you can gold
experiment.
and things like that. I forget the name of it. Anyway, I did a podcast with them. I'll find it one of these days and I'll talk with you about it. But it was the first time that I understood that you could implant things, right? Like you can take a certain frequency of, like said, substance or chemical, and you can imprint it into water or whatever substance. And so it caused me to think, like, wait a minute, okay, I wonder if we could imprint like testosterone into the body, right? Or I wonder if we could imprint cannabis, right? And then if so, would I still be able to get the effects without the downside? So like, for instance, would I be able to get the effect without testing positive for testosterone or testing positive for cannabis?
And yet the answer to that is yes. And a lot of people do that, right? Particularly like with CBD or THC. Like they'll set that on there for helping them go to sleep and stuff like that. Now, you're not going to draw the effects into the field that are going to make you high. Like, you're not going to jump out of the chair and you're like, oh, I'm stoned.
Yeah.
And you're with a full,
lay down in the chair.
Yeah, you just may take a nap in the chair, but
right.
The effects of the THCA that is pulling into the field are all hitting you in your body. And so the body, from the scalar perspective, is only ever going to take what it needs and nothing more. And so that's why you don't ever have to run that risk of overdose or anything like that, because the body is only, once it's full up, it's going to tell you, like, I'm done. Like, this is one of my favorite things. When people get the scalar, they turn it on for the first time and they sleep in it. We're like day 2 or 3 or 4, they call me. We're like, oh my God, Brad, you were 100% right, man. I slept in it the first night and it was the best sleep I ever had. And man, the second night, my head hit the pillow and I barely remember waking up the next morning. He goes, but the third night, I woke up at 2 a.m. and I can't go back to sleep. It's like, that's the scalar trying to tell you, man, we've been energizing your body for 3 days straight. Turn it off for a day or so and let your body rebalance,
I'm so glad you said that, because that's almost exactly what happened to me. That's almost exactly what happened to me, but I didn't call you, right? I didn't know, like, what to do. And I'm just kind of tinkering around and I'm like, well, and by default, I had to travel. So by default, I had to stop. Because I didn't take them with me because there was almost no point. I was just traveling for a long weekend. But there you go, right? And so I'm glad you pointed that out. Obviously, like, I feel like we're going to have you on so many times, because one of the things that you pointed out, which I mean, goes way beyond even my ability to kind of understand what's going on. Probably the hardest thing to describe is the remote sessions. That is crazy, okay?
All right. So look, the remote portion of this is one of the largest aspects of my business. I have 63 clients that are connected worldwide to the frequencies that I'm running right here in the Ozarks of Missouri. Wow. Meaning, I have a ski instructor in Italy who has circulation problems with his lungs that I've been resolving from programs that are running here. So the remotes use a technology called quantum entanglement. So let's try to simplify this down. Everybody's rolled dice before, right? And when you roll dice, they can roll any number. Mathematically, the most common probability is going to be 7. But let's say you take those 2 dice and you, similarly to how your particles are entangled, you fix those dice so that they're guaranteed to roll 7. So now it doesn't matter. When you throw them, they're going to either be 4 and 3 or 6 and 1 or 5 and 2, but no matter what, they're going to combo 7. Just like particles inside your body, they're entangled. So that doesn't matter if you take one of those dice off the table from Las Vegas and you fly to New York and you pick both up and roll them at the same time. It's still, the moment you see that one is a 2 in New York, the other one is going to be a 5 in Vegas. Because it's linked.
Oh, good. Gordon has something pulled up here. What do you got, Gordon?
This is what quantum looks like. It is beautiful, ever and internally linked to you. So the other way I try to describe this is like, you remember those old school walkie-talkies that you push the button and had to pull the middle thing, talk really, really far? Yeah, that's like what you're doing with remote. With only your body is the walkie-talkie, and you pull that little DNA out of you and give it to me. It's still connected to you, and that's why all the communications work.
Right. By the way, again, I know it's very, very esoteric, but it was driving me crazy trying to figure out the other device I was talking about. It's called insulpathy. Are you familiar with insulpathy?
Yeah. Put your water on or whatever it is.
Yeah, and they have a bunch of like just accessories that go with it. So I really like their devices, and I've used it quite a bit. But now that I have the Spooky2, I've been able to use it. So anyway, that was just a little tangent. But what is interesting about the remote sessions, at least from what I've read with Spooky2 so far, is that you need some kind of DNA, like fingernail clippings, or I mean, I think that's probably the best, right?
This experiment, as someone who's certified for Spooky2, I'm going to tell you the fingernails are going to be the best because they'll have the longest life, from the time you cut them off the body to the time that they'll no longer receive those frequencies. But I will tell you that as a practitioner, over the years, I have simplified this process down because personally, just between the two of us, I couldn't tolerate working with people's fingernails every 2 or 3 weeks. Was like awful, And so I came up with this process where I started using these 0.2 milliliter vials and then sending the vials out to people, and then they prick their finger with a small lancet and send a swab back to me. And then when I get this thing back, I run frequency programs on this thing for 3 to 4 months.
Really?
Experiment. Great.
So again, I know for the person who's watching and listening to this, they're like, what are these guys talking about? But currently, what we have going on right now, Gordon and I both, we had a guest on the show. Gordon, do you remember his name? Was it David Essel? I think it was David. Anyway, he does remote sessions via photographs, which again, it's hard to kind of understand because, apparently the energetics from a snapshot in time is supposed to imprint certain information, and that's supposed to be remote session. And I think our remote sessions go for a couple more months because he gave us like a 1 year experiment. What are your thoughts on that?
It was Palladino, by the way. Palladino.
Tom Palladino?
Yeah.
Experiment. Thank you.
Appreciate that. So here's my take on this. And again, I am very well studied in certain avenues and others, but with regards to radionics, where you're talking about the ability to freeze a snapshot in time and make modifications to that and have them work, I've never put the dedicated time or energy or effort for testing that. I've seen individuals who say this works through radionics, but I am confirmed that I know it works with quantum because of that DNA link between you and the sample. Anything that I make changes to on the sample side will 100% be felt. And again, that's the working proof in that is just as a practitioner, I haven't even been in business for 3 years yet. And I've worked with over 494 individuals, all successfully from all over the world. So it's not like magic or luck. There's a process for doing this. And each individual person has their own pathway, but with DNA, I can confirm that link between me and you. Photo, I have a more difficult time doing that. I'm not saying that technology isn't right because I know radionics can work. I haven't put the energy and the effort and the time into there because I have a working solution with DNA.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I definitely appreciate it. And I think you handled that very well, please. So that's very interesting. Now I'm considering how you use that vial because, again, from my knowledge of seeing the information is that there's the finger clips usually go inside this little container. How would you do yours?
So I'm going to get the vial back. And when I get the vial back, I'm going to reach out with you and we're going to host an initial assessment. I'm going to say, what's wrong with you? What is it that you have on your plate right now? What's going on? And as you're saying, oh, I have this and this and this and this and this wrong with me. In my mind, I'm going, okay, this is healing modality, killing modality, healing modality, killing modality, killing modality, killing healing modality. I'm separating out your lines so that I can identify, okay, this is your pathway back to restoring your DNA back to its integrity. So I've identified your pathway. And now I have a prioritization list. I'm going to start you at the bottom and I'm going to work your way up so that I can remove each individual one. You start feeling better and better and better. Your vibrational frequency goes up as I remove those lower things. And until you get up to your number one threat. And now once we're taking on your number one threat, now it's a much more level fight because you don't have all these other things compromising your immune system. So when I'm running frequencies at this, it's only a matter of time.
Okay. So please just kind of walk me through that. And I get that. I mean, I hope you can understand that I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of a person who doesn't know any of this, right?
I know.
So, because I also know, by the way, when I did those biofeedback scan, the hunt and kill programs and things like that, that was the most complex in learning how to utilize the system and the Spooky2 generators and how to set this in with the adapter and blah, 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 blah. But the other thing that was, I think, the biggest experience was the amount of time it takes to do a full biofeedback scan and make sure you don't have any metal in the field. And can you just kind of walk me through all of that and what that looks like?
Yeah. And biofeedback scans, are kind of a double-edged sword, if you will. They can be beneficial. Like if I have clients that are in person, I'm doing multiple scans the first time I meet them because I'm incorporating those scans in with their programs. Whereas if you're sending these samples, I'm not going to be able to have you here in person. So I'm going to have to build programming off of your feedback, off of your medical diagnostic, off of your lab work, whatever you have that says these are what your problems are. But as a normal individual who's kind of coming across this for the first time, look, I set up a business model that is designed where 8 out of 10 of the people that I'm running frequency programs on go out and buy their own system because they can feel the effects of what I'm running. The ability to be your own driver is what I will train you how to do. Like, I know you were saying that the technology is this and it's frustrating with that, but it's just a learning curve. And once you conquer that learning curve, man, expand the limit with this type of potential and this type of device. Like, the only thing that limits you is yourself.
Well said. So, okay. All right. So when you're doing your, like the sealing modalities for a person that's giving you a vial, are you able to do multiple people at once? Because I understand that obviously, like, somebody who has something else going on in the same field is not the best thing to do either, right?
Right. And I separate out all my clients. So that's why I have 65 XM generators, 65 remotes, one person, one remote. I manage all of them on the fly.
And like, it's like a big warehouse or something?
No, actually, I set them all up into some shoe racks that I found off of Amazon, and they're just like little cubby holes. But each cubby hole has its own generator, its own remote, and I have stacks of them that are all attached to my desktop computer.
Dude, I would love to, one of these days, if you're open to it, like, I'd love to a video of that, or even come and see you, because I think that would be really good content. I know we discussed offline that you're not into social media, but for those who are, like, that's really good content, just so you know.
You're always welcome, man. I have people come in from all over the country. They just schedule some time because I am fortunate enough to live on Lake of the Ozarks. As the summer months come up and people start getting the boats out, it's a crazy place to be with lots of energy all weekend long. But people that come here, they come down from Canada, from California, they come here from all over the place. But every single person soaks in something that was beneficial to them in their trip. Like seeing how everything is set up, understanding stuff. The whole basement that I have here is all healing. I have healing modalities, I have that. I have certain areas set up for isolated ones that I drew. Kind of mentioned this earlier, but Missouri is a certified legal, state to grow in. And I've been experimenting with that like crazy. And this is something topic-wise that I don't normally touch base with on Spooky2. But I will tell you that some of the effects of what I have seen and experienced using this on my first run through, we talked about this a little bit earlier, about the ability to imprint. But could you imagine if you've taken a full grow cycle of something and imprinted it with something like a 528 or a solfeggio frequency and watched its grow habit?
So we're thinking along the same lines, my friend, because this is what I did with the other device, but I want to do now with this device.
Took a regular basic seed that had a 19% THC, and I grew it out all the way, and I wound up yielding a 24.4% yield. My leaves, 11 leaves.
Dude, now we're going to have a whole nother podcast about that specifically, because I'm doing some interesting things.
Yeah, once I used that frequency imprinting for their vaginal cycles, once I hit them into flower, they were in Scalar.
Are you familiar with the Infinity block?
Yeah,
it's the gold thing. So I use the insopathy to implant. And I use the quantum energy block to have that in that quantum field for a certain period of time. And I don't have the ability to test the content and this and that. But every single person that I've given it to that tried it, they can recognize. There it is. That is the Lila Q quantum energy blocks. Yeah, the infinity blocks. So I used that for my grow, and it was a very anecdotal process, but it was like, a blind test in which, okay, try this and then try that, and then see which one do you like better and which one affects, the situation better. Everyone chose every single time my grow, right? So it's interesting.
Well, dude, that's just like a basic apples to apples comparison. Only it's not even fair when you're using frequencies. I've done this with multiple different plants, with everything. Like my father-in-law several years ago gave us a dead cactus. Like I didn't even realize that cactus could die, but it was literally almost dead. And when he gave it to us, I started feeding it 528 imprinted water, And it's so big now, I had it split into 2 huge pots out in front of my house. And every time people come over, they're like, oh my God, what have you done with those cactuses? Like, you don't even want to know. Like, it's just imprinted water, but it turned from one to like a batch of tons of huge cactuses that are always popping off flowers. It's crazy.
See, so I mean, I know this is like far off of probably what you normally speak about on podcasts and interviews, but the reason why I love doing this show is to be able to simply walk the talk, right? So this is something within what I do at home, and I want people to know about it. And this should cause people to go, oh, well, wait a minute. So if you can do this with, pure energy scalar, if you can do, remote healing, you can enhance your crops or your vegetables or your plants or whatever, then like what else can you do, right? You can put your pets in these fields, right? You can
my skin has saved my dog at least. I have a 16-year-old miniature pinscher who I'm very fond of. She's service trained for my diabetes. And Mary has had multiple seizures and strokes here in the last month or two. And I kid you not, the only reason why that she's still here is because the moment those start, I drop her down in the scalar, and within seconds, her body calms and she comes out of it.
Gordon, you going to say something curious? Yeah, I was curious about scalability. So playing out what you guys are talking about and find it really intriguing and exciting about potential future uses. So let me just give you sort of a case study, like hypothetical. Could you scale this out, say, to the size of an entire agricultural field? Do the effects deteriorate with size and things of that nature?
100%. And in fact, you could enhance it by introducing Electro Horticulture, meaning line your beds with copper and then run that frequency into the ground.
That's very much in line with the grounding topic. Actually, our most recent podcast we just put out was with the grounding expert, Dr. Laura Conover. And her and I both are very big into the world of grounding and nursing, right? And so me, that makes sense almost immediately, right?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep. Wow. Furthermore, now on the scalar side perspective of that, you can elongate a scalar field as long as you like, as long as you have link cable. So if you've got a 300-foot link cable, you can build a 150-foot scalar bubble. The only variable there is the link cable. You only need power on the one side of the transmitter. However long that link cable is, however big you can make that field.
Wow. So are there, because I mean, the ones that I have, it's just long enough to be able to go from one side of my very big queen size bed underneath the bed and then up into the other to the receiver. And it's just long enough.
And again, that you don't want that cable to be coiled. So that's, you get the right length, but there are other cables that you can buy online. Like Spooky2's farthest cable is a 65 meter.
Wow.
So that's a huge, huge link. Like you can basically turn the whole house into scalar with.
Okay. And then with scalar is unlike running a biofeedback, right? Because running biofeedback, you have to be mindful that you don't have any metal within that, right? Because I think that would throw off the readings. But with
purely with metal, like remember, I have titanium rod in my leg. That goes in back with bioscans. But the bioscans are just another facet of it. Like what's unique about the bios is if you buy this system, you take it out of the box, and you're like, okay, now where do I start? Because I don't know any health issues and I hate doctors and I haven't gone to them forever. Start by doing a bioscan, because that'll give you some place to start working and start running things against your DNA that you can feel the result of changes happening. It's a custom way of creating a program in the database, but that's it. Whereas with the scalar itself, this is just an amplified means for delivering those frequencies to the body. Everything that Spooky2 offers all starts with the remote. Like the remote isn't the most effective, it's the most convenient. You put your DNA inside here and you can walk away or go anywhere in the world and it will still impact you. But it's not going to be the most powerful. Whereas you can run 10 to 15 of these sessions, and that's the equivalency of running one KINSPAT session. So that should tell you that this method for bringing frequencies into the body is 10 to 15 times stronger. And as you go up the cold laser, and as you go up the PEMF, and then up the scalar or plasma, they're even more higher amplified levels.
Okay, got it. Yeah, because that was the thing I wanted to ask you about as well, because I actually reached out to the company and was sort of asking them, like, what would be the next level up for me? And so maybe offline one of these days, I'd love to consult with you about that. Go and just kind of figure out the best ways. But the cool factor for me, well, there's two questions here. First question is, how typical is it to get like over 100 different hits on your bioscan?
Okay. So the bioscan will give you however many hits that you want. Like if you tell it, give me 10 hits, it will. All it does is conduct a frequency sweep where it says, okay, we've got 2 tens pads attached to the body. We're going to start at 41,000. We're going to work our way up to 1.8. And we're just going to listen to these changes as we play these frequencies in the body, right? And as your body responds, it says, oh, I heard something at that point. It's not going to say, I heard heartburn, I heard indigestion, I heard insomnia. It's going to say, I heard this number of where we were. You know, it's like, it's going to save that number. And when you finish, you're going to have 10 frequencies that all equate to absolutely nothing because they're just numbers. Experiment. If you incorporate those in with the programs of the things that you know you're going after, like, I know I have a cold. Run a biofeedback scan, save that as a program, incorporate that in with your cold-related programs. So in the event that you're getting your cold and it's something other than the cold, the bio should hit it.
Okay. All right. So that's very helpful, especially for those who are kind of in my shoes of like, okay, what do you do with these numbers? I'm chill, sure, but then what? Okay, so that addresses that. Thank you. And then the other thing is like, we had Tom Palladino on the show, the one we were talking about that does the radionics, right, with the photos. He also showed us, which I think factor is enough to get certain people to go, okay, you know what? I believe that. And so he took a halogen bulb, I think it was halogen, right? And he showed us how it was able to come on by just putting the bulb in the field, and it can go through wood, it can go through plastic, it can go through all these things. And that was part of the reason why I was curious about getting that next level of like plasma or the bulbs and things like that. And so if I have right now, I've got the transmitter receiver, I've got the generator X Pro, I think it's called. And I've got, I was curious about getting the Electro patches and some of the other things, but
okay,
what would be the next level up?
I got you. So we kind of talked about like where everything goes accessory-wise, what does what or how it goes up. However, what you're missing or the critical piece of all of this is everything that you ever do. When you're sitting down and you're going to decide, okay, I've written down all my issues and ailments. Here's how you decide what is what. It's decided on what is a healing modality and what's a killing modality. And the difference between the two is a killing modality will be something that's pathogen related, a disease, a virus, a bacteria, a fungus, something that you're suffering from that you're going to break down or remove from the body. That's a killing modality pathogen. The most amplified method for killing is the plasma central and the spooky, the plasma central. Whereas healing modalities are going to be everything that is non-pathogen. These are things like depression, anxiety, sleep, things that people suffer from that are considered low vibrations, but don't have a pathogen base to them. The way you resonate those out of the body are with healing modalities. The most amplified method of that is going to be scalar.
Dude, okay. You really just answered that the way I needed it. So can you show me, because I think you have the plasma unit behind you. Can you show us the plasma unit? And then maybe you could pull it up as well, Gordon. Yes. And you are the same like me. I have mine on a rolling platform. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I have that simply because this thing has so many things on it that you get the option to be able to carry it. You get a couple different tubes, the Fanatron tube or a straight tube, release different types of gases. But this hub right here is just an amplification hub. So you can plug in the coil, the contact, the ultrasound, and the plasma all at the same time with one generator.
With the generator X Pro or with the generator with the yak?
Either. No, there's no generator in it. But the single $100 XM generator or the Gen X Pro, both of those can run one program to this, and then it's amplified from there. This is an amplification hub.
Okay, so that's what I need next. That's what I'm going to get on next. Yeah. Okay. So
what? This is your killing modality, and scalar is the healing modality. And the reason why I have both is because, God forbid, I got a knock on the door and someone's like, oh, I have this or I have that. You're killing modality. You're going over here. You're going at these types of sessions. Whereas they say, oh, I've been 25 years depressed and I'm suffering from this and I got all kinds of anxiety. You're scalar modality. You're going over here. Split between the two.
Oh, okay. So the hunt and kill program is that kind of doing well, that's all pathogen based, right?
It's all pathogen based, but it does it for you. Like this is where like normally as you have a list of priorities, you're going to start here and start working your way up from the bottom and going up. The hunt and kill takes all that out of the way. So normally when you set the hunt and kill up, you set the hunt and kill on a Gen X Pro. And on G1, you put the sample digitizer. And on G2, you put the booster and the remote. Okay, these are just accessories for conducting the bio and for running frequency programs. But when you do this, biofeedback is conducted, the scan itself is conducted with that sample digitizer. But unlike with a normal scan where that pops up and says, hey, I found 10 frequencies for you, it then takes those 10 frequencies and sends them over to the remote on a back and forth protocol where the killing side of the remote says, oh, I found 10 frequencies. I'm going to kill this for 30 minutes and then send you back to the remote scan or to the sample digitizer to scan again. So it scans again and says, oh, I only found 8 hits this time. Go kill it again. 30-minute kill, back over, scan again. Oh, I only found 4 hits this time. Back and kill, come back and kill it and scan again. It's a back and forth process until one of two things happen. Either one, all pathogens are found, or two, you stop it.
Okay. All right. So now let's get to the nuts and bolts of this, because this has all been beneficial, and I don't want to lose the audience because we've already gone down a path that they've probably not even heard before. Maybe they have. But what are we talking, right? Like with the minimal investment and with the maybe starting from like the pure energy Scalar all the way up to the, the most badass setup. Like how much are we talking? What kind of investment are we looking at?
Start with the generator. You have to make your first choice of what generator you're going to choose. The XM generator, like you see here on the screen, starts with kits about $350. Whereas the Gen X Pro, that's a $650 unit. That's 2 generators in one. So that generator is going to come with the same type of kitting options, but it's going to kit out at right around $1,000. But now if you start incorporating either one of these generators in with one of these higher systems, like the Central is going to run you around $3,000. 28 to 3,000, depending upon which bulb and which generator. Whereas with the Scalar, you combo that, the Scalar will start you at about $1,500. You add a Spooky2 generator, Electro 650, you're at about $2,200. We're a single individual generator like this, XM boost and remote, $166. Most cost-effective way to get Rifing into your house is that option right there.
Which one?
That 166 kit that he has on the screen. Yep. Okay, save that one in your remote kit is $166. That's everything that you need to run remote programs, generator, net to the software, lowest cost-effective solution on the market for Rifing.
And then if you don't have a Windows computer, then, switch that in. But still, we're starting out at around $200-250. You ought to be able to get started, and then you can get all the way up into the 20,000. Yeah. Okay.
Honestly, the more that you work with this and the more that you experience certain things, like that's how it started for me. Like in 2018, when I first started this, I ran multiple frequency programs on just myself because I didn't have anybody to train me or tell me what to do. I was just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what stuck. And I started experiencing changes so fast. Like it actually, one night I was getting ready for bed and my wife was like, baby, you lost a lot of weight. And I was like, bullshit. I know, like we hadn't changed this. I'm a diabetic. I planned out all 5 of my meals for the week before I eat them. I know. So what I'm going to do, there's no way I would have lost weight. But now she sparked my curiosity because I was like, dude, I haven't been on a scale in years. So I find a scale, I dig out batteries for it, and I'm down from 240 to 205 pounds. I'm like, what the hell? Rob, realizing that when you build kilo-related frequency programs and you're targeting stuff in the body, a lot of the times those microorganisms are stored in fat cells. So as they break down, the fat cells break down and pass out with them. Same thing, pretty common, like on my monthly lifestyle remote. Almost all of them will report weight loss when you're doing target-related programs because you're targeting stuff internally, and that die-off releases the fat cells as it all works out your body's detoxification ways.
Dude, that's huge. And congrats on your transformation. That's amazing. Are you type 1 or type 2?
I'm a type 1 diabetic. However, I'm using the Scalar I'm working on curing it. Type 1 diabetes is the only thing left on my plate. When I first started in 2018, I had 9 items, including depression, anxiety, ADHD, brain fatigue. I had all kinds of problems. And as I worked my way up my list, kind of getting my proof of concept ironed out, I was only left with type 1 diabetes. And at that time, I was taking 2 types of insulins. And now, currently, I had the best glucose readings I've seen in years. At 43 years old, I have extremely steady glucose readings, and I work myself off of my long-term insulin by simply taking the short-term insulin and putting it into the Scalar while I sleep.
That is huge. I think, especially for anyone in your situation, because obviously, I don't know if it's obvious, but if you had told me you were type 2, then it would have been easy to suggest trying to imprint with the metformin and things like that, right? But
Or
type 1 is just why
if her wife was type 2, I wiped that out of her altogether. Like in 2018, when we did our physical in the end of the year, the doctor calls us both in at the same time. And he sets our vitals down on this table. He goes, okay, I don't know what you two are doing, but you guys are the healthiest people that I've seen in months. He's like, Dream, my wife's name is Dream. He goes, Dream, your A1C was 6.4 and now you're 5.7. You're not even type 2 diabetic anymore. Your cholesterol's in check, your blood pressure's in check. It's like, what are you doing? You know, and so like we walked down beat around the bush very delicately. Like that was the very first proof in the pudding, like where all things from the metabolic side started checking up with what we were running frequency side.
Well, that's a very amazing N of 1, N of 2 study you guys have done. And I think sometimes when you're dealing with certain situations that are as serious as those are, it almost doesn't matter what the research is, especially if you have a unit. And so I think this would be a really good reason for people to have access to this, whether it's knowing someone like me or you and coming over and talking or getting your own, because I mean, we know what it looks like to be on long-term and for the rest of your life medication. And so that is experiment versus spending a couple grand on something, that you can do at home. So
yeah, imagine spending a couple grand and then being able to work yourself off of the requirements for those things.
Exactly.
Like, dude, I was on 5 different pills when I first started this. I'm on no medications other than insulin right now.
Experiment. And I like how you pointed out the fact that you had about 9 things that you were trying to sort of work through, and you were left with one, which is one of the hardest ones to deal with in the first place, right?
Yeah.
And so imagine someone out there that is in a similar boat. You've got a number of things. It's not that you're just spending money on this one thing to fix one thing, but you might even go into the non-pathogen related things, right? Which, right?
And that's the whole benefit of this is like when you take a system like this, you can become familiar and comfortable and confident with using it. You repair yourself, and then you get the option of choosing who you pay that forward to, whether it's your friends or your family members or, oh, my mom is complaining of a headache. Let me knock that out for you.
Yeah.
This is one of these types of devices. Like a lot of companies out there will boast that we can do this or we can do that. And they claim to do this, claim to do that. But this is a real product that when you put it into your house and you put forth an effort, meaning you don't just sit there and turn it on and let it run and do something, like you put in a game plan and you get going, it can yield a result.
Experiment. All right. Clearly I'm getting so fascinated and I'm so excited that we're having this discussion. And I also want to leave a little something for us to have maybe a follow-up conversation. And I think, because I definitely am going to be in touch with you, I think it would be interesting to do some of those projects. And maybe, if nothing else, I can show some videos of like some of the testing that I might be doing. And, I'm going to hopefully at some point bump up and get what is it called? The Spooky Central? Is that Central Plasmid?
Yeah, that's the amplified killing modality side to match the scalar side that you have. The two, if you're at like a playground, the two are like a teeter-totter. They play nice together because they balance out when one does to the other. Like if you overdo it with plasma session and the scalar comes in and try to rewrite everything.
Okay, we're going to have some fun, man. I might have to, because, I noticed in the bio that I mentioned that you're a gold certified Spooky2 instructor, practitioner. How does one go about like certifying and what is all about?
I started a couple of years ago, and I reached, I started doing videos actually because I was frustrated with finding people who bought these types of systems and had them just collecting dust inside their houses. When I'm addressing serious health issues and concerning people, like you should know how to do this. And so I started working with Spooky2 and the Spooky2 Academy. They wanted me to blast through the academy. I knocked those out. And then normally when you kind of work into being a trainer with them, they'll start you out by doing a couple of webinars. They'll have you answer live questions and stuff like that. And if you could progress through, then you'll start in as a copper trainer. And then you'll work your way up after you do more and more videos and become more comfortable and more familiar with how everything works. You'll work your way up to gold. And gold is the top. You want to strive to be a gold trainer because these are the individuals that know the ins and outs of every product, of everything related to the Spooky2 stuff, whether it's software related, whether it's hardware related, whether it's technology related. Gold certified trainers will get you the information that you know without having to be like, oh, that's a good question. Let me look that up and get back with you.
Yeah. So you might be especially with this next level of questions, you might be at like the platinum color, like beyond gold, because I mean, first of all, you definitely know your stuff, and I love that. And I kind of jokingly talked about bringing up Alien in the beginning, but before we wrap this up, I would love to know, like, what has been your maybe most transformative change or most complex situation that you've gone through when doing all this stuff with Spooky2?
Honestly, with me, this all happened in 2020 when I first started getting diehard serious. I was a wireless engineer. I was making super awesome money. I could fly across the country and be dropped into any crappy network, and within a couple of hours, I could tell you exactly what's wrong with your network and how to fix it. Didn't matter where you were, what you were doing, or how big or how small your network was. And I felt very confident in the certifications and the training that I had done for a decade and a half of, the previous year, multiple years of adding up certifications, that something changed in 2020. And honestly, I have to just tell you, it was God. God called out to me, and he started putting information into me that I couldn't understand and that I couldn't justify. And it started distracting me from what I was doing at work. And it got so bad that one morning I just picked up my phone on a Thursday and I called my boss and I said, Jim, I quit. And he said, whoa. It's like, you've been with us for so long. You've got great rapport. We just gave you an XYZ amount of raise. What is going on? Like, where's this coming from? And I held nothing back. I told him, Jim, God's calling me for a higher purpose, and I can't understand what he's wanting me to focus on, but I can't focus on what's happening here with work. And I expected him fully to fire me. But they put me on personal leaves for 3 weeks. And after the end of 3 weeks, they made a decision that they lost their confidence in me, which was fine. But in January of 20, something was pulling my attention to something else. And in January, I was a type 1 diabetic. I had no 401k and I had no health insurance. By March of 2021, this is 23 months later, I learned how to open up my own business. I created an LLC and I started learning how to do web development, create my own website. And everything from that point forward has been a 100% manifestation through Christ, what he told me to do.
Okay, so there's obviously lots of layers, I'm sure, that go within that. And that's also very interesting too, because I'm assuming that you're doing that along with the Spooky2 trainings. Is that kind of doing both right now, or?
Well, again, yes, I'm a full-time practitioner. Honestly, I'm not feeling a whole lot of people like me, man. I wake up and I put in 72-hour work weeks. I work 12-hour days. I love what I do. I'm super happy and ecstatic to talk to anybody and everybody. And it doesn't matter, because I know that he's giving me enough confidence to know that no matter what the day brings, I'm going to love whatever it is. And it's just a great feeling. Like, I'm one of those true people that truly, truly believes that if you love what you do, it doesn't feel like you're working. And I love what I do. I'm passionate about it. And I will do this every single day to bring as much people up as quickly as I can with as much correct experience possible, to help them make the same kind of educated decisions for themselves that can change their lives.
All right. Well, to start to wrap this up, as I mentioned, I always like to ask 2 questions. And the first question, I think you're going to be especially good at. Well, you'll be good at both of these, obviously. But the first one is, what are your top 2 pet peeves? Like, and it doesn't have to be about the Spooky2, Scalar, Rise, any of that. It can be about anything.
Yep. So, the first one is going to be, I hate people who are supposed fact checkers. People who say relevant and valid information, whether it be online or in person. I guess I'm a big believer in the truth, and the truth never has to run. And so when you're confronted with somebody who thinks this or thinks that, I'll stand my ground all day long, because I know that the truth doesn't have to back down, and that I'm backed up behind the technology and everything else that I'm doing. And so, experiment online there. But I guess one of my biggest pet peeves is people that don't speak the truth. Like, speak the truth and be honest about what you do. We're all trying to help each other. And if you're lying, then you're spinning our wheels.
Experiment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Experiment. I guess really that's not the biggest thing. It's just honesty. Our lives are way too short to be beating around the bush. So I'm a direct, straightforward individual. And that may come off awkward to some people. They may not like the tone or the demeanor of how I'm talking. But it's because I've already gone down this road and I don't have time to circle back so that you can catch up. I'm bringing you with if you want to go.
I love that. Okay. What is something you're most grateful for?
I'm most grateful for my discovery of Jesus, man. God came back into my life and he changed my life. And he's done this so many times and he does this for so many different people that it helped me find my purpose. You know, like a lot of people spend their whole lives like trying to figure out what was I made for? What was I meant to do? Or God, I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something more with my life. Like I feel like he built me up for this, to do this and to be this and to help other people. And that's such a wonderful feeling. That's the most thing that I'm most blessed and most grateful for is just somehow I've been fortunate enough to have stumbled across my purpose and understanding and knowing that my passion of helping others is what he wants me to do. Man, there's no greater success than that. And like I said, the talking with people, the meeting people, the hosting webinars, the 8 to 10 Zoom calls a day, whatever you do, it's all about expanding relationships and helping other people.
You know, what I find very interesting about that, and thank you for sharing, that's very beautiful. And no matter God looks like to you or anyone else, to be able to tap into that is very powerful. And what's interesting in this situation with me talking to you is that usually when I'm speaking to people in this field or these fields of like deep science, there's almost like a natural disconnect from God or source or anything beyond that. And so this is a very interesting conversation because I would have never expected that. Not to say that it's wrong or it's right or whatever, but it just is, it's interesting. And I'm glad you shared that, you know?
And you're 100% right. Like with where we are, there is a very large divide on the other side of that. And I think that's because of what you're seeing in the world right now. We're not fighting politics. We're not fighting race. We're not fighting this. You're fighting God versus evil. Good, God, Satan. You know, like it's so much bigger than the color of our skin or the religion or the anything that you think. This is everything to do with everything. And that's why you're seeing so many people follow that other side of the line is because they're not on the same page with people with regards to what Christ is and how he's doing and what he should be doing in your life.
Well, for those that are listening and watching, if you are curious about exploring different pathways with Mr. Bradley Johnson and you want him to come back onto the show, send me a message. Let me know some questions that we can ask him. If you've got a device or devices out there from this Spooky2 line and you want to know more about it, hit him up. We're going to put his information in the show notes. He's already mentioned that he is not a fan of social media, so you're not going to find him there. However, he does have a website. It is www.sre-q.com. That is free, SRE-Q.com, frequency. And yeah, I'm glad. Any other, please?
Man,
Or Telegram.
I'm so grateful just for the opportunity to come on and talk to you guys. Any opportunity to be able to share this information for anybody out there. Hopefully this will hit one set of ears that they just go, you know what? This is an opportunity for me I was supposed to hear this on purpose and let me go out and see what I can find out for myself. And that's just a blessing. So I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm super thankful and would be grateful for any other additional opportunities. But man, like I said, this was a great conversation and the information here that we got to share. I hope a lot of people get the feedback on that. And anybody else looking for any additional information, please feel free to either back me down through Spooky2 or my website. It's a great way of reaching me. I'll be more than happy to do anything I can to try to help.
All right. Sounds good. Well, honestly, Brad, thank you for your time. I know you've got plenty of things going on. And mark my words, I will be in touch. I have your information. I'll be in touch because I might even be asking you about some web development stuff as well. So there's a lot of things that, I mean, obviously we were meant to meet for a reason, right? So,
Totally.
You know, and I'll keep you posted on when I can finally buckle down and get me a bigger unit. So talk soon. Thanks for your time. And this is Josh signing out from Simply Walk the Talk. Peace.
Simply walk the talk.
Walk the talk, talking facts. Move like me, but I move a little fast. Make my move, here to last. Fasten these seatbelts, I'm coming past. Take care of me, longevity. Hack my biology, better believe. Walking the talk, soul, mind, and body connected. Better come give us a listen.